Hi all, it's time for another Q&A. In future, I will be scheduling these on every last Wednesday of the month, and I'll be prompting you with a social media post, usually on Instagram or Facebook, just letting you know that I'm taking your questions for the upcoming Q&A video. So let's get right to it. Tanishq Shetty asks how to increase height. Unfortunately, you can't. It's completely genetic. No amount of milk or pull-ups or other decompression exercises is going to turn you into a 6'3" if you're kind of genetically only going to get to 5'7", and so there's not much you can do apart from decompression exercises, which might give you a few millimeters. The Mahir Apparel asks, how much time will it take to get such kind of a body? By that, he's referring to one of my pictures. The simple answer there is it won't be possible to get a body exactly like mine, and that's just based upon genetics. So like my shoulder frame, my arms, for example, it's going to be very different to what you can achieve. However, yourself, to get leaner, to get more muscular, to reduce your body fat, and to basically improve your body composition, you can definitely see results within a month or two. And it's just a case of to keep going and keep going and keep going until you get the desired results that you want. There's not really a timeline or an end result for trying to look like a certain image, which some people have done to me in the past. They've sent me emails with an image saying, I want to look like this, how long will it take? I don't really work like that, and I don't think fitness really works like that either. Sheikh Salar says, you're doing a great thing, thank you very much. I won't be reading this username, but somebody says, I want to get a good chest. Plenty of dips, plenty of push-ups, bench press, dumbbell chest press, plenty of exercises for you to do there. Just make sure you're progressing in weight and getting stronger on each of these exercises, and you'll get any chest you desire, to a limit, of course, for a natural athlete. Amaya Shimpi09 asks a great question. So he or she asks, what's your ultimate motivation that keeps you going? That's a very good question. I'd say my motivation is definitely just progress. So whether I'm reading a book, whether I'm networking or meeting somebody, talking to somebody, or whether I'm lifting weights or trying a new exercise, definitely the motivation for me is just progress and trying to better myself. And I think by having that kind of motivation, it becomes never ending. Whereas, as mentioned earlier on in this Q&A, if you are aiming to just get a certain look, aiming to kind of look like somebody else, or showing me a picture saying, how can I look like this? That implies there's an end goal, an end point, an end to the timeline, which I just don't believe there is. With this whole fitness thing, it's definitely an ongoing thing. Ultimately, you're just trying to be healthier, you're trying to look better as a result of it, you're trying to feel better as a result of it, more importantly. And for me, becoming stronger and all of these things just link back to that one word, which is progress. The next question on my Instagram post is from Singh, a very frequent guy on the Q&As. He asks, which exercise is optimal for wider back? Not for thickness, but for width. Well, Harnek, the argument could be made that rows are generally for thickness, and pulling movements where you're working your lats are generally for width. So we know that the lats kind of come out and create that V shape. So I just say doing pull-ups, chin-ups, and probably some bent over rows as well, actually, would be most ideal for you. So just get stronger in these basic exercises, and eventually over time you will build that width. And it's also important to work the delts to create that width that you're talking about, to get that V. Yugi Singh says, can you explain carb cycling? I'm definitely not an expert on carb cycling. However, what my understanding of it is that we have something called insulin resistance. So when we constantly have very, very high carbohydrates, we become quite resistant to those carbs, in the sense that your insulin doesn't have the same response. So carb cycling is essentially having your carbs in a cycled fashion. So you might have a day of low carbs, a day of medium carbs, a day of high carbs, just to make sure that your response to it keeps being triggered. And I did something very similar with ZMA, believe it or not. So ZMA is a sleep time supplement, which is used to help increase your sleep quality and help increase your testosterone production throughout the night, giving you a deeper sleep, more restorative sleep. So what I did was I didn't want to rely on 3 capsules per day. So I started off on 3, the next day I'd have 2, the next day I'd have 1, the next day I wouldn't use any. So it just keeps your body basically used to the thing, as opposed to kind of becoming reliant upon it and then not actually having much of an effect because you become resistant to it. And the same can be said, I've just had something come in my mind, which is antibiotic resistance, which is something that's a major issue in people who eat animal products, whether that's meat or dairy. Because these animals are filled with antibiotics, it's very common when people actually get diseases and illnesses that the antibiotics they're prescribed aren't having any effect because they've become so resistant to the ones they don't know they're consuming through animal products. So I guess it's just a similar idea with the carb cycling. You just want to make sure that your body is always utilizing the carbohydrates in the best way as possible and the insulin response is kicking in. So it's just a nice way to say, you know, they may do 3 days of low carbs and then throw in a high day, just so that your body just kind of soaks up all that glycogen. Boparai asks how one could manage to make belly fat under control, even if one needs to sit for 6 to 7 hours a day. Okay, Boparai, I think that really describes most people. Most people in this day and age are seated for that many hours a day, at least, I'd say. The simple idea is that there's one thing you can do, which is, if possible, at your office, to invest in a standing desk. They're available worldwide at quite a cheap price. That will just allow you to basically stay in a standing position, have better posture. The screen is elevated to kind of eye level, meaning you don't need to sit down and kind of have bad posture, hunched over, which is very common. The second thing you can do, and which is just what everybody else is doing, I guess, is just to make sure you are working out to try and offset the kind of negative effects from being seated for 6 to 7 hours a day. The first thing you should definitely do is download a pedometer app on your phone and ensure you're getting 10,000 steps per day. That will offset some of the negative effects. But you also need to be trying to get into the gym and trying to focus on exercises which will really work the upper back into correct posture, because we can become quite over and rounded through being seated in a bad position, and, you know, hand tightness and wrist tightness and the rest of it. But Bood asks, I do deadlifts up to 180 kg, but recently, after 3 weeks off the gym, I'm not even able to get closer to 175 kg. What should I eat on my deadlift day to fulfill my energy? Sorry. I'm in a very similar position, but Bood. I took off a complete 4 weeks off while I was in India. I got back at the start of March, and it's just a normal thing. I guess this is where it really drills home that it's all about practice, repetition. So if you're lifting heavy deadlifts every week, your body's used to lifting heavy deadlifts, and you can perform at that higher level in terms of the closer to your 1 rep max. Whereas if you stop, it's just that the fact that you've missed practice, you've missed skill practice, and the patterns just aren't there anymore, so you're just not used to lifting that heavy weight. So when I got back from India, even though my calories were boosted up straight away, my health got better straight away, my strength still isn't there. It's been 2 weeks now. So it's just one of those things. It's going to slowly creep back up to normal, and then eventually you're going to even exceed. So I wouldn't worry about it at this stage. There's definitely not something you can eat on deadlift days just to deadlift 180 kilos. I'd say you're going about things the wrong way. Focus on the right reps and sets to actually build up your deadlift strength, as opposed to just going in and trying your 1 rep max and seeing what happens. Workouts are supposed to be where you build strength, not necessarily test strength. G. Ojla asks a very common question, do squats or deadlifts stunt your growth? And the simple answer is no. The assumption being made with that question is that you're automatically going in at the age of 16. I'm assuming you're quite a young guy. The assumption is you're going in at the age of 16 and deadlifting like 400 kilos, or putting 400 kilos on your back, which would actually maybe have an effect. However, I really doubt it would. The thing that I always say is for youngsters who always ask me about lifting weights, if it's okay to give somebody a piggyback in the garden, in the school playground, and these sorts of things, it's no different to putting a barbell on your back. One thing I will say, however, is I do recommend people beginning with bodyweight training, just to build up their fitness and build up some muscle and strength before entering the gym. However, there's no negative effects to lifting weights at a young age, and I think this has been shown in a lot of studies. It's definitely been shown anecdotally with all the top weightlifters that we see across the world, who have actually been lifting since like the age of 5, some of them 5 to 7 years old. So the same can be said for people like John Cena, who are obviously known worldwide. The guy is 6'3". I think he's been working out since he was 11 years old with weights. So if you're genetically, you know, going to be 6'3" because your parents were very tall, there's not really a weight you can put on your back which is going to stop that from happening, which is humanly possible anyway. So I just think it's a complete non-issue. Giddy Shettiano asks, my chest is uneven, how do I correct it? It may just be in your head, is the first comment I need to make. Generally, we do have one side which is stronger than the other, one side which is maybe a little bit bigger than the other, but that's just very normal. For example, I'm left-handed, so my left forearm is definitely bigger and stronger than my right forearm, because I've just had all the extra reps of writing, and all that wrist movement has just made it thicker. And the same goes for arms, same goes for chest, same goes for lats. I'm sure same goes for legs even, and definitely my calves. So my entire left side is slightly bigger. It's just completely normal, and I don't think it's an issue to be worried about. One thing you can do if it's you feel it's really bad is just to begin your sets. If you're doing something like a single arm chest press, like a dumbbell press, it would be worth starting with your weak arm. So suppose you're getting 8 reps with your weak arm, then only do 8 reps with your strong arm. The mistake that most people make in that case is they would always start with their stronger arm, meaning you could possibly get 10 with your left, and you only manage 8. So that just further increases that gap. So by starting with your weaker arm and then matching it with your stronger arm, you'll find over time you just kind of balance it out really. Garan Gaka asks, Baji, what's your take on Julian Smiths' tempo-based training? Been giving that a shot since the past month, had to lower my weights considerably, and the pump is out of this world. He's shot to fame in recent months. Please give your 2 cents on that. I probably should have checked that out before making this video. Unfortunately, I know nothing about that routine. So what I will be doing is replying to you in a comment instead after having a look. It's worth saying that I have done tempo-based routines in the past, and they can be great for helping you to learn the mind-muscle connection and helping you to actually connect with the muscle that you're working and kind of get a great pump as well. But if you're asking, tempo-based training and time under tension, I guess, comes under that, versus heavyweight and progressive overload. Heavyweight and progressive overload wins 10 out of 10 times. Tempo-based training is great, and it's good for, as I mentioned before, building that mind-muscle connection. However, as you already mentioned, your weights are considerably lower. So long as you're doing that type of routine for a long period of time and you're actually progressively overloading, I guess, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. But it comes down to personal preference as well, I guess. I really just love to lift heavy weights and overload in that sense. The thing about the pump as well that you mentioned, the pump is out of this world. There's a great quote by Michael O'Hearn in a video where he basically says, if I feed you pizza and creatine and we go into the gym and we superset biceps and triceps, so he basically is indicating that I could give you the greatest pump you've ever had in your life, but it doesn't mean anything if you haven't progressively overloaded. And what that basically means is, if I've got an exercise like a chin up, so I'm trying to increase my bicep size, I'm doing the chin up, and I'm scheduled to do 5 sets of 5 reps. If I used 20 kilos of attached weight, so like a dumbbell in my legs, last week, and I managed 5 by 5, if I this week do 22.5 kilos, that's progressively overloading. So it's just creating new stimulus for muscle growth. Pumps aren't always the best indicators. Progressively overloading is the best indicator. City Rider says he's very impressed being a vegan. The question is, the main and enough sources of protein apart from supplements. I think if you go onto my website, there's an article that I wrote which includes some MyFitnessPal screenshots of what I eat. Also my smoothie video on my YouTube channel, which you can probably just click on in the kind of right hand side of this video, which shows another MyFitnessPal screenshot and a smoothie that I have on a daily basis. So the only supplement I have currently is fermented BCAAs, and I have half a serving of Reflex vegan protein, which you can see from the smoothie. If I was to take those out, I'd only be missing something like 20 grams of protein. So the vast majority of my protein does come through my diet, and that just comes through lentils, beans, rice, oats, soya, milk, tofu, etc. really. So there's definitely a lot of products out there. It's worth checking out brands like Corn, Linda McCartney, Tofurkey. These are fantastic vegetarian and vegan brands which have products which can basically help you to boost your protein intake. There's also things like bean-based pastas and spaghettis available, like black bean spaghetti, soybean spaghetti, these sorts of things, which have very, very high protein also. So I guess it's just a case of knowing where to get your protein, knowing that every single food has some protein in there. So if you can add things like quinoa, even tempeh, seitan, all of these things are vegan and definitely high protein. Diljit Singh Dulai asks, do you take supplements? As mentioned in the previous question, currently I'm only taking fermented BCAAs, which are vegan friendly, and Reflex vegan protein. I also have like bars and cookies and stuff, but I don't have them on a regular basis, so I don't really mention them. I will be starting to take creatine monohydrate again. I'm just trying to get back into things after returning from India. Other than that, I don't take anything, and I don't really believe anything else works really. In terms of vitamins and minerals, actually, I do take vitamin D, just because, you know, we're still in kind of the cold months here in the UK, not much sunlight. In about a month or two, I will be stopping to take that and just getting out more into the sun, so it's kind of a natural source. Ravreet, I believe, asks, how do you hit abs, and do you do them before or after your workout? Funnily enough, it's only something I've really started to incorporate from last week. So I'm trying to do a little bit of abs every session at the end. Generally, I'd just say the main compound exercises. So when I do things like military press, push press, even front squats and chin-ups, these sorts of things, I always tend to feel my abs anyway. However, because it's a weak area for me, not in terms of look and the way it's developed, however, just the strength of it and kind of the all-rounded development, I don't feel that I have enough. So, and by the way, I'm talking about more of a strength and performance angle as opposed to the way it looks. The way it looks has always been good. However, the core area for me now is what's kind of making me lack in especially the back squat and the front squat. So I've decided to kind of add in some Russian twists with kind of dumbbells from a decline position, which is working really well for me. I always tend to do some kind of hanging exercise, whether that's knee raises or leg raises. But at the moment, I'm really experimenting with calisthenics as well. So I'm doing things like L-sits from the floor. And that's also something I really get a great response from. So personally, I like to do that after each workout. If I'm free at home and I've got 5 minutes to spare, I might do something at home. Also, I do planks before each workout as part of the warm-up routine, because it just kind of engages the entire body, especially before as part of a warm-up routine for squats, front squats, back squats, pause squats, overhead squats, all of them really. It just really helps to engage total body tightness really. So simple answer to your question, Ravreet, is anytime I can. Generally after workouts, always as part of a warm-up routine before my workout, but also when I'm at home and I'm just free and I've got no soreness there, I'll do something. Harbir Baji, Barefoot Ducks, somebody I have big respect for, says, you probably get the same questions all the time, so I'll try to be a bit different. What was the most memorable workout you ever had and why? That is actually a very, very tough question. In recent times, I'd have to say it was the New Year's Day kind of PB session that I had. Now, the reason why that was memorable is because I had this, I definitely put that session up on a pedestal. So me and my training partner went in on New Year's Day. You know, we were scheduled to hit personal bests in everything because our training has been going so well for months really. And what happened was I loaded the bar, I warmed up on all my squats, I hit 160, I hit 170, and then on 180, which was the number I was going for, I really kind of felt my knee, something was quite dodgy in my knee. And it was something I felt on the 170, but I just kind of kept going. And I ended up just kind of being semi-injured, I guess. So I didn't do anything for the rest of the session. I kind of went home a bit disheartened and all of that business. I then went to see somebody, you know, she really helped me. There was something wrong with the back of my knee. I'm not entirely sure, maybe you'd actually know what was the issue there. But point being, I kind of rested it. I relaxed for a week or so, then I got back into the gym. Then I just went all out. So I hit a squat personal best of 180. I hit a deadlift personal best of 222.5, I believe. I hit a pause bench press PB of 120. Then I also hit a clean and jerk, I believe the next day or the next couple of days, PB of 100 kilos, which I was looking for absolutely ages as well. So it's just very nice, and I guess it's memorable that you come in and you're trying to beat a record that you've always had in your mind, and you kind of fail it constantly, especially in the case of the clean and jerk with 100. I'm definitely not a master, it's just something I really enjoy doing. I definitely enjoy learning the new techniques, and it's very intricate in terms of weightlifting movements. So when I tried to clean 100 and each time I was failing on the jerk, it was just very nice to just come in and to actually get that done once and for all, especially in the same weekend as crushing all my other personal bests as well. So it's just nice to know that your training is moving in the right direction. So I'd definitely say that was the most memorable workout for me, definitely in recent times anyway. Maybe my memory is bad, that's why that is the one that I mentioned. Parminder Kaur asks, what's your favorite muscle group to work out, and what muscle do you want to grow more? Great question. My favorite, there's not really anything I don't enjoy. I'm probably least into arm training, direct arm training, which is probably something that's evident from my routines and my videos. There's not anything I don't enjoy. Probably I'd have to say legs, to be honest, just because it separates, you know, the dedicated from the not really. What muscles do you want to grow more? I'd love some calves. Being genetically very slim from the beginning, my calves have just never seemed to have grown, sorry. So, you know, the rest of the body I've grown, everything's, you know, improved, I can say, with the calves just feel like they've never made any progress. And they're known to be the most stubborn muscle, so I guess that's fitting. But I'm also really interested in trying to build up my shoulder and delt size. I feel like it's a lagging body part, not only in terms of look, but in terms of strength as well, which my military press I feel like is not where it should be, which is a strict overhead press. So I'd love calves, I'd love some bigger shoulders. That's about it really. Mandeep Sadal asks, what do you think about cyclic keto diet for getting huge but not accumulating fat as well? I'm not entirely sure what a cyclic keto diet is. It might be worth me checking that out and getting back to you by the comments. However, in terms of getting huge but not accumulating fat, that just sounds like something that's a bit too good to be true. By going into a caloric surplus to actually accommodate for muscle mass, for strength building, there will be an accumulation of some fat there, it's just undeniable, unless you're obviously using some performance enhancers. I don't think that's the issue. I think you can go into big caloric surplus, gain the mass needed, and then kind of shred it back down later. But I don't think there's any diet style really, unless you're really carefully cycling the kind of the carbs and cycling the calories to basically ensure that you're not gaining as much body fat. But then I'd probably argue that you're not in enough of an energy surplus, calorie surplus to actually build the muscle that you want. And it really just comes down to your genetics, I guess. It's not a method that would actually work for me, I feel, because I just really struggle to get calories in, especially as a vegan, if I was doing a keto based thing or a really low carb based thing. Sahib Weiser says, is whey protein necessary to increase the size of muscles, or consuming the same amount throughout the day with egg whites will have the same results? Yeah, completely what you said secondly. So whey protein is not necessary at all. So long as you're getting that amount of protein through your food, you should have no problems whatsoever, providing the amino acid ratios are kind of quite similar. Paradeep Singh asks, your body is superb, brother. Can you tell me how to reduce fat from the side, the love handles and chest area? There's not really a specific way you can reduce your fat from specific areas. This is called spot reducing. It's just not possible. What you need to do is just work on reducing your body fat percentage as a total. And you can do that by trying to increase your activity throughout the day. So I definitely recommend walking 10,000 steps a day. I definitely recommend working out with weights in the gym predominantly, because that will actually help you build your lean muscle mass. As a result, that will increase your metabolism. And I'd also put a control in place on your nutrition. So find out how many calories you need and actually try and aim for that number in a well-balanced way. Eating more vegetables, drinking more water, drinking green tea, these are all things that will also help you. Just moving over to Facebook. I had a few questions on my Facebook page. Instagram is usually where my Q&As have the most response. I've had some very successful Q&As on Instagram. Facebook, for some reason, probably the algorithm, It's just terrible. Regardless, Harkan Puni asks, hi Azad, I'm a tall and skinny person and have an issue regarding digestion. My body is unable to digest food properly. Is there anything that you might have used which helps in digestion problem? Thanks. And I think somebody jumped in there, Kuldeep jumped in and basically said chew your food properly, which I think is advice that I'd give you also. It's important to note that I'm not a medical practitioner, so I can't really give you direct advice based on that. It's worth seeing a doctor and see what's actually going on there, because there might be something like irritable bowel syndrome, celiac disease or something along those lines going on, which is something I've had in the past as well. Not knowing what is the issue can be a problem at times. So I think you're going to be first recommended to keep a food diary and see which food actually triggers these set of problems that you may be having. It might be worth doing simple things like actually chewing your food more, drinking maybe 300 to 400 mils of water before each meal to try and aid the digestion that way. It also might be worth trying to control your stress levels, because that plays havoc, and working out, which will actually create an appetite. Also, a supplement like probiotics may help you, pre and probiotics, so it might be worth looking into those. But I definitely say before you invest in anything like that, go to see a doctor and try to find out what the issue actually is. Faisal asks, BCAAs or aminos or Arginine or Creatine, which helps? I'm assuming you mean, Faisal, for muscle building, and out of those four I'd say I'd only invest in Creatine. Creatine monohydrate is enough, and it's possibly the most researched supplement out there which is actually proven to work and help. So BCAAs aren't essential. You can just get those amino acids through food, especially if you're not training fasted, and if you're not vegan, I don't really recommend them to anybody. Same can be said for amino acids, and creatine is going to help you try to put on some muscle and strength. So I hope that's helped all of you. I've tried to keep this Q&A as quick as I possibly could, but I did run through all the questions. The ones that I missed, I'll just drop you guys a comment on wherever you posted your questions. So until next time, take care.